Okay, so we are starting with chapter 6. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. 6.1 Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnirna chakriyaha. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, the yogi, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Unattached to fruits of work, works as he is obligated, he is in the renounced order. And he is the true yogi, not the one who doesn't do any work. Purport. In this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of the Eightfold Yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, it is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of Karma Yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without self-interest, some personal gratification, be it concentrated or extended. This criterion of perfection is to act, the criterion of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with the view of enjoying the fruits of work. To act in Krishna consciousness, the duty of every living entity, because all are constantly parts and parcels of the Supreme. Parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for self-satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for the satisfaction of the Supreme Whole and not for personal satisfaction is a perfect sannyasi. So here, so Karma Yoga is recommended, not Ashtanga Yoga. Everyone is working for self-interest. This is the material world, but we should work for the satisfaction of Krishna because we are parts and parcels of Krishna. And we, since we have to maintain body and soul together, we um, have to do some work in this world, but that has to be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. Satisfaction of Krishna with respect to karma, we already discussed. One is to either do work that is directly pleasing Krishna or work and use the results in Krishna service. And of course, I mean, working for the pleasure of working in such a way that Krishna is pleased. There are two ways. One is directly serving Krishna. The other is following Varnashrama. So following Varnashrama also is pleasing Krishna, and also in Varnashrama naturally, since it's a Krishna conscious centric society, people also use the results in Krishna service. If these two are not happening, at least one should, whatever karma one is engaged in, one should use the results in Krishna service. So that way one can live for the satisfaction of Krishna. So, and he becomes a perfect sannyasi or a perfect yogi. The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they become liberated from all material duties. Mostly Prabhupada is referring to Mayavadi sannyasis, and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra yagnas. But actually they are self-interested because their goal is to become one with impersonal Brahman. So they are selfish. And just now we discussed saying that perfection is to not be selfish, but to do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. So devotees, they do yagna, which is Sankirtana yagna for the pleasure of the Lord. Such a desire is greater than any material desire, but it is not without self-interest. So this, to become one with impersonal Brahman, of course, it cannot be compared with material desire. It's much, much, higher in the sense it's much better desire than material desire. But it is still with self-interest because in this process they are not thinking about what the Lord wants. They are just thinking about their own goal, interest, which is to become one with Brahman. So it is with self-interest. Similarly, the mystic yogi who practices the yoga system with half open eyes, ceasing all material activities, desires some satisfaction for his personal self. But a person acting in Krishna consciousness works for the satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. Krishna conscious person has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criteria of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is a perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. न धनम न जनम न सुंदरीम कविताम वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्ति रहित की कोई. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in his Shikshastakam, O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth. So this is where people are stuck in this material world: wealth, marriage, women, etc., and powerful, so having followers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praying. I mean, basically, he's teaching that devotees should not go behind this; should only pray for devotional service, life after life. Okay, so basically, it's clearly saying that one has to do some activity and not sit idle. So even in Krishna consciousness, that's why especially Srila Prabhupada's mood was that we have to preach. There's no question of going and sitting, going to a dham and just doing bhajan. That bhajan is when we cannot do any other seva, then we only end up in bhajan, only doing chanting, hearing, etc. But now we have to preach. Okay, so we need to be in the middle of action. And of course, I mean, the more we are active on the material front, the lesser time we will have to act on the spiritual front. And slowly and steadily, one has to keep increasing the amount of time that one is giving for Krishna, in such a way that it doesn't become like a abrupt shock, but it becomes like a natural progression that one goes through, so that by the end of Grihastha Dharma, Grihastha Ashrama, by the end of 50 years, one is ready to plunge to do full-time seva for Krishna. So one has to organize one's life in that way. But the whole idea is action and for Krishna's pleasure, and that has to go on increasing. Any questions? Okay, 6.2. Yam sanyasamiti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asanyastak sankalpo yogi bhavati kachana. What is called renunciation? You should know to be same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So what is called renunciation is same as yoga, because this is yukta vairagya. So that is what we explained, I think. Okay. But real sannyasa yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as a living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned. And when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in the real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification and renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. So when we renounce these sense gratificatory activities, that means that we are in yoga, because we are giving up sense gratificatory activities because Krishna doesn't like it. So this is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material and attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. So this Prabhupada is setting the standard for a devotee. He's saying a devotee's life should be such that he doesn't have opportunity to engage his senses in anything else. Otherwise, unfortunately, these standards are not being followed today in our practice. So one should still not engage in sense gratification, even if there are opportunities, and try to engage as much as possible in service of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously sannyasi and yogi. Sannyasi because he is giving up all sense gratification, and is yogi because he's on the other side, he is doing bhakti yoga, so he's also yogi. So both the purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses as prescribed in the Gnana and Yoga process automatically served in Krishna consciousness. So both are happening, right? So sannyasa is also happening, yoga is also happening. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then Gnana and Yoga are of no avail. Saying basically, even if somebody is engaged in Gnana and Yoga, but if they are selfish, they're trying to achieve something for their own self, then it's useless. The real aim is for living entity to give up all self-satisfaction and be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction, because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is again repeating the same thing as in the previous verse. So no inactivity, action has to be there. But if one doesn't know Supreme, then that action will be self-centered. So one has to first know about the Supreme and then engage in his service. Then there is no question of any kind of self-enjoyment. So he automatically becomes a sannyasi and a yogi. Translation also says, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces desire for sense gratification. So that is automatic. That has to happen. Gnana Vairagya. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayajita. Jayati Ayashu Vairagnam Gnanam Cha Yadahitukam. Okay. 6.3. Arurukshormuniryogam karmakaranamujjate yoga rudasya tasyaiva shamakaranamujjate. For one is a neophyte in Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So it's not only for Eightfold Yoga system, not just for Ashtanga Yoga, but for even for Bhakti also. Sometimes, we should not abruptly give up work. So one who is elevated in yoga, then cessation of material activities is recommended. The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. It may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to the perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevations, different parts of the ladder are known by different names. But all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into three parts: Gnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called Yoga Rurukshu. And the highest rung is called Yoga Ruda. So Yoga Rurukshu is the beginning stage and perfect stage is Yoga Ruda. Concerning the Eightfold Yoga system, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, asana, yama, niyama, basically Prabhupada is giving in English. Regulative principles of life is yama, niyama, then asana, sitting postures. They are all considered fruitive material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. Then because yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, then there will be pratyahara, which is to control ourselves from engaging in certain types of activities. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, dhyana, then he ceases all disturbing mental activities. Krishna conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna. Again, Prabhupada sets the standard. Should always be thinking about Krishna, and being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna is considered to have ceased all material activities. So Prabhupada's purports are slowly and steadily now taking us higher and higher. So these are the guidelines for us. And previously, devotees who came into Krishna consciousness, basically this is the mode of full-time devotees who are serving full-time. But devotees who are working outside congregation, etc., we should also constantly keep meditating on these statements and keep wondering, saying that, how can I always think about Krishna? What can I do to always think about Krishna? So this is important. So only when somebody reaches yoga rudha, then one can give up material activities, which basically means that at this stage, first is there is no need for the person to do work. That means that he doesn't feel incomplete without working materially. Second thing is he has sufficient engagement in devotional service. Then material activities can be stopped. And of course, I mean, not whimsically, under the guidance of Guru, one can take up. 6.4. Yada he
Correct.
ha,
Sorry.
no problem.
So,
Won't be
so when
sorry.
one is yes, but so when one is engaged in the service, so it's not the attention is on the service. So then, how to always think of Krishna?
No, attention. Thinking of Krishna doesn't mean that we are only thinking about Krishna only all the time. When we are engaged in a service, it automatically thinking about Krishna because it's
Okay.
his service.
Okay.
Right? Like, for example, now we are working. When we are working, we are not always thinking about our employer, but the employer pays us because we are working for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's not that we have to keep thinking about Krishna all the time. So that is why there is practical seva. When Arjuna said Ma Manusmara Yuddhacha, was Arjuna just staring at Krishna or just thinking about Krishna when he is firing his arrows? No, he's fighting. I mean, he's just fighting. When somebody's fighting, they can't just keep thinking about, Arjuna cannot be just thinking about Krishna. Arjuna is thinking about Krishna by following his orders.
Yes.
Right? So which is why Krishna consciousness, meditating on Krishna is when we meditate on his instructions. We are following Krishna when we are following his orders.
Okay.
Not different.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
all
right.
platform, absolute platform.
Yes.
6.4. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karmasvanusajjate sarvasankalpa sannyasi yogarudastadochyate. Person is said to be elevated in yoga when having renounced all material activity desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activity. So this is what they were saying. So he doesn't have material desires. He doesn't act for sense gratification, and he doesn't engage in any such sense gratificatory activities also. So he is completely satisfied in just engaging in the service of Krishna. Purport. When a person is fully engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. So this pleased in himself is very important. When we engage in devotional service, we should experience some kind of happiness. So we are happy. Oh, okay, I'm working for Krishna. I don't need anything else. Then we don't look forward to any sense gratification. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification since one cannot live without engagement. If we are not always engaged fully for Krishna's pleasure, then we'll be engaged to that extent in our pleasure. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. Everything. Not anything, everything. And thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One has no such realization. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. Mechanically means here in Ashtanga Yoga, there are rules and regulations. Bhakti Yoga, that is why from stage 1 only, when we engage in Krishna service, because they are directly connected to Krishna, we get that happiness. Because we have that happiness, then that motivates us to do everything for his satisfaction. Because whenever we do anything for Krishna's satisfaction, we become happy. So our motivation is built in the activities of Krishna consciousness. And that is why we have to associate with the right kind of people. Sometimes, we might not be getting any taste in devotion. And we might just think that, okay, this is how it is. But no, we might be doing some mistakes. We might be doing some aparadas. We might be doing some things wrong because of which we are not experiencing happiness. We are not experiencing the pleasure of Krishna consciousness. So then we should fix it. instead of running away from it or thinking that I have to do something else also to keep myself happy. So if you are in the right kind of association, then um, Krishna consciousness by nature will give us that, mm, you know, uh, will take us away from sense gratification. Because see, senses require real engagement. Senses require to be happy. They require that, and if they don't experience it naturally in Krishna consciousness, then they will engage materially. It's not that we have to try to make them happy, but automatically they'll become happy because this is the natural position of the jiva. So then when we look at Krishna's form, eyes are happy. Param drishva nivartate. So we have to make sure that, and that is why initially we like there is some encouragement about saying dovetail your abilities. So we engage in those activities which we are good at and which is required in Krishna consciousness, so that we get little bit of somewhat we are happy. Okay, I was able to do this. But that is only initial stages, so that we get attached to Krishna consciousness. Then we will do everything, anything and everything for Krishna's pleasure.
True. One question. So this last line which says that one who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires. So I think Prabhupada is talking about the mystic process, right? The eightfold yoga system.
Yeah.
But can this also be understood as Varnashrama? Because in Varnashrama also we work for basic necessities, right? And we escape material desires. Is that correct? Or is there any other way
No,
apart from?
actually, no. In Varnashrama, we don't escape material desires. Varnashrama system is such that one can experience, one can have material happiness, but in a very approved way, in a regulated way, in the way approved by Shastra. It's not. It's not gross sense gratification. But Varnashrama doesn't mean that we give up our sense desires. Traditional Varnashrama is just like a very pious society, God-centered society. That is Varnashrama.
Okay.
What it does is it takes away the impetus to engage in sinful activities. But because people engage in activities which are centered, which are finally for satisfaction of Vishnu, slowly and steadily they'll make progress, and then eventually they might give up the sense of desires. But it's not the first stage, or it's, and how that also happens parallelly, because they come to bhakti. They are not artificially trying to control anything, even in Varnashrama. Artificial in the sense, because there is a framework, there's rules and regulations to be followed, so automatically there is restraint, there is control in terms of not engaging in sinful activities. But sense desires are not like banned.
Okay, so I think it's more like a digression from Papa, but Punya, like kind of. But here I think Prabhupada is speaking about coming out of Papa and Punya both, right? It's like the whole material desire can be tried to escape.
Yeah, I mean, mechanical, wherever this word mechanical is used, you can just think about Ashtanga Yoga, right? Because Ashtanga Yoga is a very mechanical process. It's all based on mechanically control your breathing process, mechanically, so it's all mechanical. So Prabhupada, because it's whole chapter is on Dhyana Yoga, he's just talking about that.
Okay.
Because for Ashtanga Yogi, there is no such realization. He can't understand what is this satisfaction of Krishna. I don't know because I'm not engaging in any service for him. So for him, he has to mechanically do, because he doesn't have any other reason or alternative because of which he's going to give up sense gratification. Okay, 6.5. उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानम् अवसादयेत् आत्मैव हि आत्मनो बन्धुरात्मैव रिपुरात्मनः. Very, very important verse. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Okay, so I'm going to, I don't know, let's see how much we're going to complete. The word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul depending upon different circumstances. Okay, this is just information we should know. Sometimes here it is used as Atma, sometimes Atma actually means Atma, which is soul. Sometimes Atma means body, sometimes Atma means mind. So, yeah, devotees know what context it is. So, Prabhupada is saying that here it is mind. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Very, very important. I'll tell you why this is so important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. Okay, Prabhupada is explaining why here Atma is referring to mind and not Atma itself. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. Okay, so in 11th canto of Bhagavatam, Krishna says that the soul has embraced the mind. Mind is material, soul is spiritual. Okay, but a high class soul is got attached to a low class mind. This is like Ajamila, high class Brahmana getting attached to a prostitute. Okay, and then what happens after that? Life is destroyed. So because we are superior energy, but we got stuck with this low, inferior energy via the mind. So the way things work is when creation happens, false ego is created. False ego basically means that I forget that I am part and parcel of Krishna basically, and I think that I am something else. So this false ego is manifested as mind in the mode of goodness. So, and the Atma actually has embraced this mind. So, which means that the Atma is now somewhat thinking, associating, like almost, uh, he's almost feeling like he's the mind. And so, whatever the mind accepts, Atma also accepts. Whatever the mind rejects, Atma also rejects. So, that is why here Krishna is saying mind is the enemy as well. Friend of the conditioned soul, if mind is turned towards Krishna. If mind is turned towards Maya, then he is the enemy. Because being material, he drags the Atma down to the material platform. And Atma thinks that he belongs to this material world, and he thinks that everything that is happening to this body, mind is happening to him. So he is experiencing the pain and pleasures of this body. But Atma has nothing to do with this body, except that it is a vehicle. Atma has nothing to do with this body. Atma is Sachidananda. It is eternal. It is full of bliss. It is non-material. It is, its characteristics are completely opposite to the material mind and body, which it has now wrongly assumed as itself. This is the wrong identity. And all that is because of the mind. Mind engrossed in material desires, material thinking will just drag the Atma down again and again to this material world, and the Atma is not feeling bad about it. He say, oh, okay, this is what it is. Yeah, I have to be happy materially. So Atma is like really, that is why it said Atma is like almost stuck, like in a, cage. That's because it just embraced the mind. So by the practice, by when we come to this knowledge, platform of knowledge, we disconnect this. They say, okay, no, Atma, you are not the mind. You are separate, mind is separate. But even after knowing this information, we tend to get dragged by the thought process of the mind. Right. And that is why we have to keep ourselves controlled, as in we have to control ourselves from getting dragged by the mind. And that is why yoga means Indriya Samyama, control the senses. The chief sense is the mind. So mind has to be controlled. Today, mind has become uncontrolled. It's become like a bad child, and it's dragging a superior energy, Atma, with it, dragging it down. So we have to really understand this and understand that we have to control the mind. Mind will position all kinds of theories, all kinds of this one, which will make us feel like, oh, mind is thinking so much about my welfare. No, mind is just dragging us down. We have to understand this. So it is stressed in here that the mind must be trained so that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of ignorance. And so it has to be trained. So it has to be, like Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, it has to be whipped with a whip or, like broomstick, beaten. So mind has to be brought under control. And the easiest way to do that is to engage in Krishna consciousness. Right now, for half an hour, 45 minutes, if you're thinking about, if you're doing this Shravanam process, then the mind is controlled. Where is the mind driving us towards material sense activities here? No, it's not. In material existence, one is subject to the influence of mind in the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled. See, entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with false ego, like I said, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature. So, the more and more we restrain ourselves from engaging in material activities, the better it is. The easier we will get out of the entanglement. Easily we'll get out of the entanglement. But the more we allow ourselves to be engaged in material activities, the more we will get dragged. So simple. So in this way, conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point. That is, one must do this. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshaha bandhaya vishaya sango muktiyai nirvishayam manaha. For man, mind is the cause of bondage and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage and mind detached from sense objects is the cause of liberation. Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. So please don't ignore your mind. Please don't think that when the mind is thinking, don't think that you are thinking. Understand that the mind is thinking. But when the mind is thinking about Krishna, then because it is favorable, we can allow it to do so. But when the mind is thinking about non-Krishna activities, material activities, then it is not you. So we have to stop this chatter of the mind. Very, very important. And like yesterday I was saying in another class, saying the whole process of chanting is to control the mind. But what does the mind do even in chanting? Drags us. How obstinate. You can imagine how much of an enemy our mind is. That it is not letting us actually even hear Krishna's name because it's afraid that it's going to lose control. False ego, basically, because it works for the false ego. So we have to, really it's a sadhana. It's like we have to practice to stop this nonsense, mind getting dragged away. And this dragging away or distraction of the mind is what is standing between us and Krishna. Because with the dragging of the mind, it results in namaparada, and then we cannot make progress, we cannot achieve Krishna. So this stupid mind is actually literally standing in the way and, obstinately standing in the way, saying that, let me see how we will go to Krishna. So we have to control this. We cannot, like Prabhupada here saying, must do this. There is no other alternative. He is used for emphasizing this point. One must control the mind.
Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt. I have a doubt on this verse. I wouldn't say doubt. Last week when we were distributing Gita books, what we did, one person donated some 10 to 15 books. And he said, whoever is willing to read, let them take the book for free. Okay. So what we did, we tried to give the book to little rich people who were passing by in car. We stopped them and told that you can read Gita, so you can do chanting and all those things. A couple of them accepted. The people who didn't accept gave two different reasons. One is that some people said the job which we are doing and the way which we are behaving, doesn't allow us to read all these things, because like Gita means they are thinking that we have to follow a procedure and we have to be clean, and they are not clean and they can't get to that level. All those pretty good clean reasons they gave, and they were humble enough to accept it, but they denied it only because they thought that they will not be able to do it and do the due diligence and follow things. And one last question they asked when I kept asking them, requesting them, it's easy, you can do it. And they said like, we don't know the procedure. We don't know who will teach us, whom do we ask? And then I asked them what language you speak. Maybe we can give you Gita in that language only. Some people said Tamil, some people said Kannada. So you can take Kannada verse. Then they said like, give us a couple of days time, then we will decide and take it from you. So this is one set of people. The other set of rich people who were passing by, they said like, I don't even need this. I have everything in my life. So why do I need to read Gita? Tell me what is there. It is some kind of storybook like that, they said, and they left. So when you said we have to control the mind and we are discussing about this verse, so I thought of asking this question like, so yeah, we are reading this verse and we can tell our mind, we can train our mind, and we should have control on it. We should not degrade ourselves. So how do we tell these people, two different style of people, that not to think in that way?
That's not a single conversation thingy, right? So see, that is why, I mean, book distribution, the way book distribution happens is those sincere souls who are out there will take the books, right? Now, there are different ways of cheating these people. I mean, literally, I'm using this word cheating with it is intended, right? So we want to transcendentally cheat these people. So some places, like for example, some tricks that are used are like Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurtarha. So you keep this, then you will have fame and victory and all that. Now that might also not fly with, that will fly with a lot of the middle class people, right? And if we say this is good, good things will happen to you, etc., they'll take the book. No, which is actually good, which is actually right? But our intention is to obviously bring them to the platform of bhakti, but we can use this because we can somehow, I mean, book has to go into their house, right? For the rich people, see, rich people, generally it is very difficult because they're arrogant. If they're speaking like this, and they don't want to hear, and they don't have a reason to really, what can we tell as the reason? Saying that, this is manual for life, you have to know how to use. So one way that I tell is saying that, please understand that your richness and everything that you have today, your life is very good, which is very nice. We are very happy that you are having a good life. But please understand that this is not a result of your present life actions, right? And that might stimulate their thinking, because they are thinking that it's all what they're doing today that is giving them, this happiness, this money, etc., etc. And we can try to tell them, saying that, this is all because of some very pious things that you've done in your past life. And Shastra says, Dhanma Sveshwarya Sutta Shri. So you will have all of these four if you've done pious activities. But and then, if they have a minute, then we can say, okay, why do you think that person on the road is begging? So he'll say, he didn't read, he didn't. So I say, yeah, see, he didn't read, he didn't get an opportunity to read. Then they'll go into everything is in my control kind of discussion, right? And so then we should say, if everything is your in control, then everybody should become Bill Gates. So I mean, so obviously, see, this requires people to be somewhat willing to talk. If they are willing to talk, we can convince them, or we can try to convince them. If Krishna willing, they'll accept. But of course, I mean, we should be very strong philosophically, or at least we should know the lines that they will, they will oppose us with, and then we should have explanations. But another thing we should, and we should make our attempt, right? And whether they take it or not, eventually it's, their bad luck if they don't. But we should put our effort. But you also have to see the attitude of some people. If some people are too arrogant, you should just give them some prasadam, one box of sweets and say, thank you very much for your time. Please take this. Give them prasadam. Prasadam will bring them back. And they'll think, oh, what is this? I mean, person wanted to sell me a book. Sell a book to me. He didn't want to make money. He gave me one box of cookies without charging me anything. Then he'll only say, okay, can I give you something for this? So yeah, you can give. I mean, cost about 50 rupees, whatever you want to give. So, somehow we have to connect with these people. We should give them some sukruti, some good, bhakti unmukha sukruti, it is called, some piety connected to devotion, and then hope and pray that they'll come back later, because not everybody is ready at the first shot.
Prabhuji, it was not even sold for money. Initially, people sold for money. Yeah, devotees were selling it. But later on, we donated few books. So this
No,
conversation.
anyway, I mean, for them, it doesn't, I mean, they are not thinking about it from that perspective, right? So anyway, so point I was making is that whenever when we give them something and say, okay, you please take cookies like prasadam instead of book, they might just take it. So the point I'm making is, we might not be always be successful in giving a book, but we should give them something, that is devotional, and pray that they'll come to Krishna consciousness, because prasadam is definitely one very powerful way to bring people into Krishna consciousness. So that's an option. And we can always say, you have time, you can join something, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, these are very dynamic, Prabhu. The book distribution is not is very dynamic. Different types of people we encounter, we can try with logic.
I wasn't much caring about the rich people who said like we have everything and they walked away. Some people even just didn't even listen to us. They said we have everything. Why do we listen to you? They said and left. I'm a little cautious. I want to do something for the people who said like, yeah, we want it, but we feel like we are degraded. We can't take it. We won't be.
That is very easy. That we should tell them, saying that everybody is degraded in Kali Yuga. And generally, when people say this like this, I also say, yeah, I was also degraded before somebody mercifully gave the book, and today my life has changed. Right? Irrespective whether it's true or not, we can always put ourselves into the same shoes and make them understand, saying that, yeah, I mean, all of us are degraded in Kali Yuga, right? But you want to get benefited, so we should give them an example. See, if you're degraded, if you have a health problem, will you go to a doctor or not? You will, right? Because you
Yes.
want it cured. So it's the same thing. Like, this book is a cure for all our problems, real problems. If people are pious, there are 150 ways by which you can convince them, Prabhu. People are not pious is where the problem is. Then they'll be arrogant and they just, don't want to even hear. Very unfortunate souls. But people who want to hear, we can definitely, there are many ways by which we can convince them.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And sometimes what I also have done in the past is, even if I think that remotely they are somewhat, they have some piety, then if I felt that I will not be able to convince them, I used to take their numbers and say, one of my senior devotees, he will give you a call and help you understand. Maybe I'm not able to explain it better. If they're willing, they'll give their number, and then somebody else can speak as well. So multiple ways we can do. Yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay, so please think about the mind. This is very important. Anyway, next session we will again continue some discussion. I request all of you to think about this. You spend time from between today and Friday to think about how your mind is, how your mind, how are you engaging with the mind, or how your mind is engaging you, or what kind of thoughts come, how much of material thoughts you have in a day. Think about how you think you will, what will you do to move the mind away from these thoughts and bringing it more into into Krishna consciousness, etc. So do your own homework and think about, because this is a very practical thing. This mind has to come under control. We cannot just let it go like this, the way it is going. And I know, because last many years in Krishna consciousness, I've not really gone behind it like, you mind, see what I'm going to do. I have not gone behind it like that. That okay, take it easy. Karo, yeah, you should chant, think about Krishna. My mind has just been misbehaving, and we're not really taken very serious steps about it. So it's very, very important. So I want to continue this discussion in the next session as well. But before that, kindly do this introspection and see how you are placed and what are your ways, what are the areas where you are stuck, and how do you think you are going to come over it and reduce. Basically, the goal should be reduce this chatter first that is happening. Mind is it just keeps going on and on and on. 150 things it will say, of which even not even one is important or essential, or it will happen. It just speculates. Right? How do I put the full stop to this nonsense mind of mine and engage the mind in hearing Krishna's name, engage in Krishna consciousness? Right? So think about this, and we can discuss next class. Okay? So we will end here if there are no other questions. Okay. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Samveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.